Welcome to Tell Me More, an Allsteel podcast where design meets innovation and we explore the limitless potential of the modern workplace.
Welcome to the Tell Me More podcast. My name is Dr. Lauren Gant, and I am a Senior Workplace Advisory Manager at Allsteel. Today, I have the pleasure to be joined by Dr. Susan Chung, Director of Innovation Programs at HKS Inc. Hi, Susan.
Hi, Lauren. Thank you
Thanks.
for having me.
I'm so excited.
I'm so excited, yes.
Today, our conversation is going to be about focus work. I think for a long time now, we have been talking about the ways that work has changed. And for many of us, this hasn't just been logistical, it's also been very personal. You know, the last few years have reshaped not only how we work and where we work, but how we feel about work too. How we're setting boundaries, how we're finding balance, how we are evolving in those areas as well as all of the other areas of work. So in the middle of, hybrid schedules and constant notifications and the rise of AI, there's something quietly slipping through the cracks. And that's, I think, our ability to truly focus. So today we're going to talk about what focus work really means in this new era of work and how we can design our days, our teams, and our spaces to really help better support our minds. And I could not ask for a better person to have this conversation with than you, Dr. Susan Chung. So thank you for being here. I would love for you to talk a little bit about your work regarding brain health and really how it relates to focus work.
Sure. So back in 2021, about 5 years ago, HKS joined in a partnership with the Center for Brain Health over at the University of Texas in Dallas, which was a great partnership because it was just thinking about brain health, not just in the sense of one single person, one brain, but really like what does that brain function within the body, within the space. So seeing all of those different scales. With that, just understanding that the Center for Brain Health had a plethora of research happening about understanding the brain. It was really finding that connection of where does space or the design of space really come into play. So in 2022, HKS, along with the Center for Brain Health, we did a research study in our own workplaces. So we did it on ourselves to better understand, so what is brain health and how do we achieve it in our own work? Because we're invested in making sure that our own employees knew about brain health, received training for brain health, and understood how to practice it in their day-to-day lives. So it's been a journey, right? We've completed it in 2022. We published it in 2023. It's still ongoing. And, as much as we love to understand how we can work just within our company, why keep it to ourselves, right? We published it, but we also want to make sure that this is available for clients as well. So we are in the midst of rolling this out as is understanding even more through some of our client projects.
Oh, I love that. I love how you used yourselves as test subjects for this research. I hope people really got it. Can you talk a little bit about what the response was internally to this idea of brain health?
Sure. It's been a huge experience overall because it is, again, I took a step back and said that it starts with training. It starts with understanding what is brain health, why does it matter, and how do we actually practice this. So the Center for Brain Health has training materials on their website. It's an ongoing project for them as well. But with that, we developed a brain healthy workplace framework where it's taking the center's strategies for brain health and then also understanding our own spaces. So what are the affordances? What are the activities that really help us to achieve brain health? Focus being one, and focus definitely being one that is essential and I would say like the hot topic for everyone in understanding, okay, how do we get to this? But I will also mention that it's not just about the strategies that we as an individual and with others do, and also with the spaces, but it's building habits, right? So Lauren, you mentioned, in this era, it talks about how do we create those boundaries? How do we create that balance in all of it? We've also identified habits in, okay, how do we make brain health be part of our day-to-day, not just something that we think of at a particular moment. Hopefully it's not at the time of already burnout. Hopefully it's not a
Right,
time at a
hopefully.
particular life stage.
Right.
But it is something that we understand now, today, and can incorporate into our lives day to day.
I love that idea of making it a habit and really integrating it into the things that we're doing every day. And I've actually been thinking a lot about how there is pockets out there that really are talking about this rise and grind culture, or like this idea that focus is something that you can power through, and why that might cause a lot of tension. I think I would love to hear more about the habits that we can develop, because I don't think focus is a fixed skill, but it's maybe a condition that is shaped by our baseline needs as individuals, but also by the design of the space and the cultures that we're working in.
Mm-hmm. And I think it really gets into those different skills, right? So the individual, but also we as social beings, like we're not just one person. We work with others,
Right.
the team skills, but we
Right.
work within a context as well, whether that is a social environment or whether that is a physical environment. So really, how do you start to think about, okay, what can I do? What can I control? What can I start to communicate to others? And what context or what kind of just environment can I enter into to really find what we call peak performance or brain health? It's interesting to kind of think through, how do we start to define focus? Because I will honestly say, for me personally, when I say, okay, I'm going to do some focus work, to me, I put a lot on my shoulders for this, because as a researcher, focus work, I need to do a deep dive. Like
This is what you do.
This is what I do. Like I need to,
yeah.
like I need to have my focused attention on things for a large chunk of time. And again, I will honestly say that that's pretty taxing on myself to put that burden and pressure and say, oh, I need to find time within my schedule, a huge block, to be able to understand, okay, what do I need to do? Where am I? And then really get into that focus mode, and to actually achieve something. And when it comes to research, and I believe other kind of professions as well, design included, you do need time to kind of build that up, especially if you want to get into that flow state. But with that, I want to kind of suggest or maybe provocate, do we need to redefine focus, right? So Lauren, you mentioned focus isn't necessarily just a skill. So with that, can we redefine focus as maybe it's a 15-minute chunk of time, right? Maybe it's a 30-minute piece. Maybe it's a 60-minute piece, or maybe it is a 4-hour piece, right? Depending on what you do need to do. But rather than putting the pressure on, oh my gosh, focus, I need to really accomplish something huge out of the focus work that I'm doing. Instead of doing that, if we start to chunk things out into something that is achievable, will we also receive that reward in, oh, I actually got something done? I was able to focus.
Yeah.
Rather than the mentality of, I wasn't able to focus at all.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm furiously writing notes of here. There's so many threads that I would love to pull on this. This idea that redefining focus is so interesting. And I think a lot of us think of focus work as, I'm reading the thing, I'm creating the document, I'm actually creating something. And focus work maybe should also include things like reflection and respite. And does that sort of reframe how we think about it? We can also think of this idea of a marathon session versus a sprint session, and what do we have stamina for, and when do we need these different tools or levers that we can pull? That's so interesting.
I love that you mentioned stamina and levers too, because that's exactly what I've been tracking as well. If you think about um, the energy it takes to actually get into focus, right? Do we have that cognitive energy? Do we have that ability to do so? And that ties exactly well with, are we replenishing our
Yeah.
minds? Are we actually taking those breaks to restore the energy that we do need in order to exert for any focused tasks, whether that is a smaller chunk, whether that is a sprint, whether that is a marathon? And it's been interesting. Again, my research is more on the human behavior and design side of things. So I did have fun looking into the existing research around, more on the neuroscience side.
Okay.
So if I may share a couple of stats.
I love that. I love stats. Please.
Yeah. This was published in 2025 by Dr. Gloria Mark of the University of California in Irvine. And she had mentioned that 2004, the average attention span on screens was 2.5 minutes. And then in 2012, it reduced down to a minute and 15 seconds.
Oh, boy.
And then about 5-6 years ago, so this is right before the pandemic, it actually hit to 47 seconds. So in a 20-year span, it's reduced about 2 minutes.
Wow.
Right? But not just that. There was an article that also mentioned that it's not just that reduction of attention span, but if you also think about, they mentioned the median being 40 seconds. So the average is 47 seconds. So if you culminate, some people are actually doing better than that. Some not so well, but median, that 50% mark is 40 seconds. So there's actually more people that aren't doing so well in being able to keep it in attention. And a lot of that is, yes, screen. It takes a lot of cognitive load out of you because it gives you a lot of stimuli within a contained environment.
Sure.
Right? We're used to being in a physical environment where it is bound, right? We do have walls or we do have areas that are within our periphery. But if we think about the digital kind of screen, right? That small space, a lot is coming at you. So to be able to the stamina to be able to keep focus, it is requiring quite a lot on that.
And that's so interesting. I mean, I think I feel it. I will say, I feel my stamina for attention dropping personally. And I wonder, like, I'm sure there's things about me, I would identify as a morning person. So my attention span in the morning is probably much better than at, we're recording this at 3:30 and I'm still doing good, Susan. I'm still with you, but like come 2 hours, I'm going to be ready for a nap. So I imagine there's like personal things about that, but the environment in which we are in probably impacts our ability to focus too, right? If we have, external things coming at us, how do we think about those sorts of things? The diversity in the spaces in which we are trying to focus and what different brains need to be able to focus.
We definitely have different preferences and different abilities to, I would say, filter out stimuli, right? So I can take a personal experience and say, I have 3 very active, talkative nieces.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law is very talkative as well. My sister, she too was talkative, but if you compare it to the 4 of them, not so much. But I joined them for a meal, and there's a lot going on. There are at least 5 conversations going on, and I'm like, okay, there's a lot going on.
Who do I listen to?
What do I filter in? What do I filter out?
Sure.
But they have a conversation, right? There's several threads going on, and I do feel that they've exercised it probably, day in, day out as they've been exposed to that environment. They probably know what information to filter. May not be the right information to filter and not listen to what they should be listening, but that's another story.
Right.
But being able to kind of build that muscle for filtering may also be very different for each person, but it's
Sure.
still a muscle that you can train and you can
Interesting.
build. Um, I think it's a good exercise to just understand what are your needs,
Mm,
what are your thresholds, and your thresholds may change every day as well. It may
yeah.
change every hour. So, Lauren, as you mentioned that you are a morning person, and come a certain time, you do feel your energy depleting or not as fresh as early in the morning. Um, I would say that if you after your nap, you may feel another kind of breeze of kind of fresh kind of brain once more. So just understanding like the ebbs and flows of what's going on,
Hmm.
even within your day or your needs, I think is
Hmm.
very important to understand when and how to focus.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, how are we supposed to advocate for ourselves if we can't even define what it is we need, when we focus best? What some of us like to work in maybe buzzy. I mean, maybe your sister works really well when there's chaos and noise happening at home, and you prefer a more quiet atmosphere. Um, I will say, as a parent, sometimes the quiet starts to get a little unnerving. You're like, "What's going on? I need that. I need the noise to be able to stimulate or to like feel like everything is okay." So, I think you're right. Like knowing something about myself helps me advocate and protect that and set some boundaries around what I need.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, if I may tug on one more thing that
Yes, please.
you mentioned levers, right?
Yeah.
And I love that because it gets into thinking about even all of the information and the stimuli that are coming at you, and you're processing through that, whether it be information coming from the content that you're working on, whether it be on the information that you need to kind of just handle at that current moment. The stimuli that's coming at you, whether it be through notifications digitally or whether it be around you physically, like how much can you actually filter, right?
Mm,
So thinking about even a lot of the technology that we use enables us to kind of pull these levers, right? We
mm,
can be on do not disturb mode and block it off for a certain amount of time. We can put a status message and say, okay, I need to focus for a bit and kind of hold off. As we're doing the brain health study over at HKS, we were also thinking through what are some of those physical markers, right? We can do it
mm.
virtually, but how do we set a do not disturb? Do
Yeah.
we put up a sign?
Yeah. Put your
Or
headphones in, right?
put your headphones is
Yeah.
is a great indicator as
Yeah.
well. But even kind of segmenting or zoning out a particular space and saying, okay, like this is the space for do not disturb focus. We're currently our DC office moved into a new space and we're deeming it a quiet car area.
Um,
Right. Similar to the train, right?
yeah.
So you're in there, it's a quiet car, no phone calls,
Mm,
conversations. It's there whether you need it for the full day, whether you need it for just an hour work, that you need to kind of like plug through, but it's signaling, right? It's
yeah.
communicating to other people that, when I'm in this space or when I'm have this message up, it really means that I just need
Yeah.
to focus.
Yeah. I love that solution. It's like combining the idea that I know what I need as an individual. I need this quiet space to go and focus. We're setting cultural permissions around that. We're saying like this is where that happens, and the environment is supporting that. It's sort of like the perfect combination of all three of those ideas.
Mm-hmm. And then the whole lever piece is, you may, to your point earlier, Lauren, you may suddenly need like, well, it's a little bit too quiet around
Yeah.
me. I actually need a little bit more kind of background noise or coffee chatter around me to get there. So again, kind of just understanding where your needs
Mm,
are and how much that you can process at that time is just a good thing to have.
I love that. Um, Susan, one of the things that you mentioned was this magic phrase of flow state. I think we all want to achieve the flow state where things just feel like they're hitting, time is going by quickly. We feel like we're really in the zone. Can you talk a little bit more about the flow state?
Sure. So in this flow state, it's actually beyond focus, right? You're in, and they mentioned that the load for your prefrontal cortex is actually lessened because you're not trying to make decisions or planning, but you've pushed beyond that and now are able to kind of like really get into um, the groove, into the flow state of things, right?
Yeah.
So nothing around you is really like, distracting you. There's no disturbance. It's really getting to where you're enjoying it as well. So it's less
Wow.
anxiety and stress,
Oh my gosh,
but
I love that.
it actually gives you that, and I'm hoping that I've understood this correctly. It's actually giving you somewhat of a dopamine hit as well because you're in that flow, because you're achieving and you feel that you are in that flow state. I think it is quite aspirational. I don't think it's something that's you quickly like turn on the switch and it's like, okay,
Sure.
this is flow. I
Now
can
I'm gonna
achieve
flow.
this.
This is
Yeah.
my flow time on my
hmm
calendar from 1 to 2 is my flow
hmm
time.
But I do believe that there are things that can help enable us to do
Yeah.
it, right? So there are definitely ways that and things that we can be equipped with, right? So just for me, it's understanding. I thrive when I have clarity, right? So
Okay.
if I have a clear goal, I know what my boundaries are and saying, okay, I need to finish this, or I would like to finish this amount for about 2 hours. Not to
Okay.
say that I'm going to put a timer on things or anything, but kind of at least understand, okay, like I have a clear goal. It is an achievable goal. It's something that I'm going to try to achieve during this state. Do I have all of the resources available to me? So
Got
I'm
it.
not spending or wasting time trying to be like, where was this? Or,
Yeah.
oh, I thought I remembered an article around this, but everything's
Yeah.
kind of at your
At your
fingertips.
fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine even like the thoughts of like, oh, I forgot to set that email or send that, like making sure like everything else is sort of taken care of around you could really impact that too.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
love that you said enjoyment because I really can feel that. Like when you have a great session where you feel like you're really productive, have some really innovative ideas, like it does spark joy and it does feel like a great sensation that I got things done and I had these great ideas. And I love that idea of linking focus work with well-being and with, I mean, you use the phrase brain health. Like, can you talk a little bit at all about how this creates wellness or health for individuals?
Sure. So brain health expands from just focus, right? So again, focus does take some energy out of us because we're kind of flowing a lot of energy into finishing one specific task or accomplishing something that you've kind of bound together.
Mm-hmm.
But brain health is looking at it in totality of, we identified this in the research and saying that we do need it for focus, for ideation and exploration, right? So something that we kind of do it in free form as well, rather than just focus. We understand that, again, work isn't just done um, individually, but in collaboration. So collaboration and co-creation is another. And then rest and reflection, right? Understanding that that is very necessary for our brain to replenish, to find the resources and be able to do the different activities. And then finally, social connection, right? So being able to connect with others, right? That does bring a lot of
Mm-hmm.
well-being
Mm-hmm.
to us, again, as we are wired as social creatures, to build that. So getting into the science behind brain health, it is understanding, or again, I'll go back to just definition to me is the core of all things, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
defining focus, it's also going back to the definition of brain health, and the World Health Organization defines it as the state of brain functioning across cognitive, sensory, social, emotional, behavioral, and motor domains. So
Okay.
again, it's not just the brain and what we think of, okay, in knowledge capacity, but it is in totality.
Tonal worker.
And it's allowing a person to realize their full potential over the life course, irrespective of the presence or absence of disorders. So in all of this, to me, it's, every part of the brain, meaning every part of our being is part of brain health. And it is across the life course. So it's not just a particular age that we need to think about our brain health. But to me, my underlining, my highlight in this definition is realizing full potential.
Yeah.
Right? So the time that we spend every single day, it's so precious. I would say that I want to look back and say that I've really enjoyed my life. I really enjoyed that day, right? Not to say that the joy doesn't come with any sufferings or hardships, but that when I look back, that I've lived in full capacity, in full potential. I've unleashed that. I've unlocked that. And I would hope that everyone desires that as well. That they're living the life to its fullest.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope that too. And I just really commend you for thinking of this through the lens of space design and culture as well. And I think we are quick to put the onus on the individual to figure it out for themselves, to take ownership of that and take that direction and sort of own it themselves. And I appreciate that you're thinking so deeply about how does the culture and how does the space, specifically the environments in which we're operating, really help foster that enjoyment and that mental brain health as well.
We use a concept called affordances, which is how we perceive environments to meet our needs. So I'd like to think of it as, what are the cues? What are the communications? Like, what does the space tell me that I should be doing? Right? And I take the example of, if we see a flat surface, we want to place something on it, or we want to write on top of it, or perhaps we want to sit on it. Right? It gives you these different kind of signals on, okay, this is how I should be used. Use me.
Right.
I think it's the same for space too. And yet we do come with different, experience, different kind of cultures. So how we perceive environments may slightly differ.
Yeah.
But I do think that if it is clear, right? If
Legible.
there are clear, legible kind of messages that come from a space, then that eliminates how much information that I need to process, how much decision making I need to kind of think through when I enter into a space. So it eliminates that. So focus can actually happen, or that whatever activity can actually happen without having to figure out, okay, so how do I navigate through the space?
Right.
Where are things?
Yes.
Like, what do I do?
Yes. What is this intended to be used for? We've been talking a little bit about this. There's a philosophy called hostile architecture, which is sometimes used in public spaces, in which the whole intent is to make it so people don't hang out there. They don't sleep on benches. It is meant for leaning, but not sitting. And it's sort of like, we want to do the opposite of that. We want to make things approachable and comfortable, and we want to make them legible and make sure that people know how and when and where they can use these spaces to support their work.
So I mentioned that we had these habits. So we did design it where there were 9 brain healthy strategies that came from the Center for Brain Health, and that there were 5 affordances. So focus, collaboration, ideation, rest and reflection, and then social connection. And then we ended with 3 workplace habits.
Okay.
So these habits are: 1, align your intent with your environment. So I love that you already picked it out.
I got
right?
it.
So there's data to back it up, but it's also intuitive that we should be intentional in what spaces we choose to work from.
Yeah.
Part of the findings within the study also talk about, we do too much at the workstation. Our workstation is multitasking. We're multitasking, and our workstations are multitasking with us.
Probably neither of those things are going well for us, right?
But the workstation, it's great that it's flexible and it accommodates all of these different things. But is that really the best? Right? If everyone is doing all of these different things in a similar area.
Sure.
But once you start to kind of really define clear areas with the affordances that it's attached to, and you align your intent to do, let's say, focus work in that environment because it's signaling to me, come,
Yeah.
focus here. You
Yeah.
can focus here.
Yeah.
That is like the first habit to build, and just notice that, we have a variety of spaces available to us. Um, let's understand. Let's make sure that our clients, the users of the spaces,
Yeah.
also understand the intent behind those spaces so they can use it for not just their full potential, but for the full potential of the design of that
Yeah.
space as well. And then the second habit is balancing your workday. So if you think about, like nutrition facts and your plate, you want to have
Yes.
like how you want a portion of it to be carbs, a portion of it to be your protein, veggies,
Sure.
whatnot. Similar, it's just balancing it and just knowing that, one day of just full focus work may be great, but just remember that you should also put in rest, that you should
Mm-hmm.
also be connecting with someone else,
Mm-hmm.
rather than just being in isolation,
We're
right?
not
So
robots, right? Yeah.
understanding that you should be balancing it out altogether. And then the third one is to connect with others and exercise choice and control.
I love
So the importance of communicating, right? Going back to those do not disturb, whether it be like flags, signals, messages, or a separation and going into a particular area. Just knowing that you can choose to do so,
that.
right?
Yeah.
And also knowing what you do have control over when it comes to getting to your needs.
Mm. I love that so much. Those habits of affording the space, having spaces that afford the actions that we're trying to take in those spaces, balancing our day, our rhythms, and really connecting with this idea of choice and control. I think, we've been talking about focus work and how that works with the individual and the teams and the spaces in which we're operating in. And I think there's a lot of overlap here. And I'm really excited to learn more about the work that you're doing, Dr. Chung, and the work that you have around brain health. And I think, there's a lot more we could talk about, but I hope what this conversation has stressed today is that focus is about getting things done, but it is also about so much more than that. It's about protecting mental space and reducing stress, creating clarity, and giving us, time and space to think deeply and breathe. And when we really do support focus work, when we think about what we need as individuals, we're not only producing spaces in which we can be productive, but we're also really supporting creativity and resilience and overall well-being. So I really just appreciate you, Dr. Chung. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave us with today?
Um, this was amazing. Time flew by so fast.
We'll do it again.
Yes. I do truly believe that we were focused on the topic, but we
we hit our flow state.
We hit our flow state. So I'm happy about that. I just want to leave a thought that, you mentioned that focus can also be designed.
Mm.
And I do think that it is designed in so many different aspects. It's designed within your time or your calendar. It's within your day. But it's also, I believe, in your space. So being able to find how you get into your flow, how you get into your focus in the design of your space, whether that be your social surroundings or whether your social space or whether that be your physical space. There's definitely a design aspect there. But all in all, my kind of whole philosophy is life is design and design is life. If we look around, just look around our surroundings, everything is designed, right? At the product level, at the space level, even this time, I feel it is designed, right? So every part of our life is design included, but also, again, kind of reframe or rethink life can also be designed. Yes, there will be constraints. Yes, there will be challenges. Yes, everything won't go according to schedule or according to what we want it to be. But there's also the beauty of being able to iterate and being able to improve. So I would say for focus, don't take it as, okay, I wasn't able to achieve focus like today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so hard
Yeah.
to focus. But start to kind of see it in a different light, see it in a different perspective, redefine focus, and start to design focus in a different way. Can also be a design challenge for us as designers, but really us as just people.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't have said it better. You have wrapped us up perfectly. Design is life. You've given us so many tools to think about how we are designing our day, designing our time, and hopefully designing it in a way where we can find that enjoyment and find that peace and really come, out at the end of the day feeling like we had a great day. So I appreciate all the insights you've shared, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
So thank you all for joining us on today's episode. We hope to have you join us here on the next one. Take care.
Thanks for joining us on Tell Me More. For more insights and stories, subscribe on Apple Podcast and Spotify, and connect with us on social @Allsteel. See you next time.